Every night is game night after hours. Top 100 cooperative games of the Broken Meeple, number 70 to 61. We're talking about numbers 70, 69, and 68 on my list. This on the big list. So like I said, Luke and I both made lists, and we kind of like smished them together, averaged them out, and that's what happened. These games are number 32, 29, and 28 on my list, so really, really high. The first one here is Untold Adventures Arrate. This is the implementation of Rory's Story Cubes. You've certainly heard of those, haven't you?
Yeah.
This is a
Although
Rory Story Cube.
that's not selling it.
You can use Rory StoryTube as a storytelling device, just like roll them and tell stories off of them. This one just takes that basic idea and puts them into like a 5-act structure. So if you kind of look at the back of the box over here, I can show you guys the back of the box, right? This is a game board, and you're rolling and you're putting it in these little divots over there, and it kind of takes you through the beats of a story. So like you get to the intro and you get to the conflict of the story, you get to the big confrontation and whatever it is. And so as opposed to kind of like being truly open-ended, it kind of gives you structure, and it also gives devices so that people can genuinely cooperate. So like if one person doesn't like what's going on, they can just press the pause button and be like, I don't like it. And everybody has to kind of agree and come back to it. And also they found ways to turn it into like an hour. That's it. It is not going to be this things that you're just going to be there for 4 or 5 hours or telling whatever stories. 1 hour, you're in, you're out. It tells a really cool story. It's like a TV show. Like they really wanted to make TV show episodes out of this. So I really, really like it. That is Untold Adventures Await. The next game, maybe you've heard of this or maybe you haven't. It's WizKids. So it kind of came and went. WizKids, I don't know like what's going on. They make really cute, quirky games, especially since Zev entered the fold. But they just kind of come and go. But this game was a real gem. This is the Banishing. Have you heard of this game at all?
Barely, but like just in passing. I've never seen it actually on the table or played.
There is, for me, like I want a co-op game that I can play at the end of a night. So like there's always games, you're at a game night and you're playing your big games or whatever it is, but like a game will end at like 10 and you're not ready to go home. And you just want to play something quick. So people will lay out something quick. It's like here, 45 minutes, play Concept or play whatever it is. This is a co-op version where you can just like kind of lay down and play it. It is, so I'm looking at it, a dark void kind of enters the thing. Well, I don't even want to go into all that. It's a symbol matching game. So like you have your center tableau of symbols and you have a hand of symbols, and you're basically trying to banish certain symbols. Like the blue ones, you have to banish 10 of them. But meanwhile, monster cards are coming out. So like at the beginning, you don't have a lot of monsters, but as the game goes on, more monsters, and it's a very kind of mathy puzzle that way. But each character has certain powers. So like you're a sorcerer, you're a wizard, you're a barbarian, you're a brute. So you have special powers so that you can deal with these monsters, collect the cards you need to do that way. I love this game. I will play this anytime. It is fabulous, and it takes 30 to 45 minutes, pure co-op, 3 to 5 players. Really like it. It stinks that it doesn't get much more pub. That is the Banishing. So the last game that I'm going to talk about over here is Commissioned. Very, very few people. You either have this rated pretty highly because you're attached to the theme, or you're not attached to the theme and you've never played it. That is basically the breakdown of this game. Have you at least played it?
Not played it as such, but I mean it's reverse pandemic, isn't it? Essentially,
It is reverse pandemic. I think Sam Healy from the Dice Towers, the person that is most responsible for this, he's a believing Christian. He loves that. And I've had the designer on the show a little bit, Pat and Cat Lyside from Chara Games or Cara Games. Sorry about that. Reverse pandemic. You are playing apostles in ancient Jerusalem, and as opposed to stamping out the quote unquote disease, the disease are actually Christians, and you're trying to spread the Christians to the different cities in the land. So it has kind of as opposed to kind of this hand management thing, it has a deck building aspect to it. So you're building your personal faith decks And so you start with a simple deck, and you kind of acquire powers, and you can like move more, or spread more followers, or someone like that you've done teaching, so like here have 7 followers that are following you, like appear right there. And you have to coordinate movements, and there's also like a one versus all variant where you can play the Romans, and you can like jail Christians.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
one of those games, right? It's I call it a game with a touchy theme, just like Black Orchestra or some of the other games
Mm.
we're going to talk about. So I really, really like it. I think it's really clever. That is commissioned. If you want to hear more about that, we have talked about that on our podcast, and you can hear more about it other places. But you have not played any of these games, so we're not going to belabor the point. So look at that. My phone all locked up over there. I'm busy talking about my stuff. Here is a game that we have both played. This is number 67. It is the Pathfinder Adventure card game. Higher on your list, it is number 50, mine number 86. So go ahead. Tell me why this game should be higher.
Uh, I mean, 86 is still good in that, and it may drop for me slightly as time goes on. But the Pathfinder Adventure card game is one of those. All right, I just want a typical D&D adventure, with classes and races that I'm already aware of, but I also want a deck builder that I can level up. Because
Yeah.
you start off with a basic deck, it's only got like your couple of weapons and that. But as you play through each of the scenarios, it tells an interesting story depending which of the Rise of the Rune Lord, Skull and Shackles, there was a Demon Inferno one, and I think there's now Mummy's
Egypt
Tomb one.
one, yeah.
Um, but Skulls and Shackles was the one that I went all the way through, and there's a lot. It's a bit of a cat and mouse style hunting thing. Like you've got the big baddie, these hidden in these decks. You've got to go through them, but you're fighting monsters. You're encountering traps. You're finding new cool loot that you might acquire, some allies. But what rather than necessarily just the normal gameplay of it, it's the leveling up aspect I love, because you finish the game. During that round you found, oh yeah, I found this really cool sword or this really cool spear and that, and from that you go, right, well I don't want this anymore, I'll slot this into my deck, or this ally can go, you're in the deck, and you're quite restricted on how much space you have unless you start leveling up your character, which you do as time goes on. Like you can have more slots. But it's cool that if you play it properly, so that you've got the scenario packs and you open them only when you get to that stage, you sort of go, right, well, I've done these adventures, I've got this cool loot, right, let's open up this scenario pack. Open it up, here's a new story, but then there's all these cards that you might find as new loot, new monsters and everything. So suddenly it's an expandable game that just gives you a lot of content. And there is so much out there, it's unreal. My only problem I had with this was that it was more solo than it was a co-op, mainly just because more people, less people wanted to play it with me as a big campaign setting. It's not one that you can play as standalone, which is probably its main issue. You have to play this as a full campaign. But yeah, it's gotten better as time goes on, as they've refined the rules and made it a bit less, fiddly at times. But no, I quite enjoyed it. But I mean, it's what was it, 50 for me? I wouldn't put it any higher as time goes on, and I think just as it may slip down as things go on. But nah, I mean, I still enjoy the leveling up aspect of this one.
It has a really great app. If you are,
Yes, that does.
it really like it. They have the first campaign. I know they finished off the first campaign. I haven't kept up with the app to see if they have the second in there somewhere. But that's kind of how my exposure to the game. I couldn't imagine like playing playing the physical game and having all those cards laid out. It takes care of all that overhead for you. When I got into it, I was kind of flying through it. But then I kind of got over it. It felt very repetitive. Like I just didn't feel like that there were 5 different scenarios, and they were all like they didn't really change. So I kind of enjoyed it, and then I didn't.
Yeah,
So I don't know if the different other expansions kind of mixed up the mechanisms that way. But I just couldn't. Like like you stuff a goose until it pops, and then there's no kind of resilience to it. And I'm over here murdering animals again. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, but it's solid. Like if you haven't played it, it's worth a look. And the app is kind of reasonably priced, and
the app
you
is
can
good.
and you can, I think you can, it's a low barrier of entry, and you can either kind of grind for the gold you need to open up stuff, or you just pay for it. So, if you have time on your hands, it's a, really solid one. So that is Pathfinder, the adventure card game, our number 67. Okay, so number 66 and 65. Is that what I'm looking at that right? Yep.
Yep.
Number 6, those are both mine. I think you've played this, you just don't like it.
I find it I found it all right. I mean, I didn't go nuts for it. But yeah, I just didn't go nuts for it. I thought like, okay, this is fine. I think one thing that puts me off it is theme-wise. I love Tyranids. I love those.
Okay, you're on the side of Tyranids.
I would rather be on the side of them. I am sick to death of Space Marines.
Okay.
It's just like every time Games Workshop release something to do with the Warhammer license, it's like, oh yeah, we'll put orcs and maybe Skaven in, things like that, and then we'll have Space Marine this faction. There'll be like 5 Space Marine factions and 3 other races or something stupid. They've done it with all their systems, even like the Dice Master stuff that they're doing, and Shadespire, and no, not Shadespire, I'm thinking of another one, but it's just I'm just sick and tired of Space Marines. They're just big beefy guys in metal suits. There's only so much I can get into that. The card game itself is fine, and again, I suppose the fact you mentioned co-op thing. This is something that I only ever played solo. I mean, that was another thing. And it's kind of like, if it literally is only ever going to get played as solo, I didn't consider it as much.
Well,
but you can play it with co-op though, can't you?
It's actually meant to be a co-op. It really is. Like, because the thing about solo is that you're playing 3 characters. So you can have and if you play 2-player, you play 2 characters each. Like, it's really not meant to be a solo. It's meant to be a co-op. Every character, just to kind of break down how it works. So you are Space Marines. Yes, you are Space Marines. And you are going to attack. You're basically going through a space station, and the space station represented by cards. So the different levels of the space station, so it's like a row of like however many Space Marines you have, and you always have 2 Space Marines, and the 2 Space Marines will go on either side of this row of cards, right? So like everybody's in a position in a different place, and you go to different areas in order to defend against the Tyranids. The Tyranids and the Gene Stealers and stuff like that. So the Gene Stealers are just flowing out of these top decks. As the Space Marines die, that row, actually, it is a row of Space Marines. I totally forgot about that. Yes. So it is a row of Space Marines. So like the Tyranids will kill your Space Marines, and one at a time, just like pick them off slowly. So it's the diminishing resources. You don't get more powerful in this game. You get less. So as your characters die, like if both of your characters die, you're out. Player elimination, too bad. And you will, like, if you are crawling to the end of this game, because it is it's kind of lucky. So every single combat interaction is determined by the same die roll. So it's a special die, and the Gene Stealers win ties. How could the Heroes are supposed to win ties? Nope, not in this game. So, and the spawns come harder and harder and harder as you get deeper into the levels. So like you might go through the 3 levels or 4 levels depending on the mission. And more dice rolling. And if you give the dice enough time, it will kill all your characters. You are going to try to make it towards the end. I love this game. So I'll tell you a quick little story. I played this game at a local con, and the Dice Tower folks were up around. They were just kind of hanging out at our store, and we're playing. And one of the guys I was playing with, we're playing with 3 of us, and he's rolling dice, and he has a character like if he hits a Gene Stealer, he can roll again. Usually he can only roll once, but like he just hit and hit and hit and hit, and he was like, we were getting louder and louder every single time, and he's like, yeah. Ah! And Z looks over at us, he's like, what's going on over here? And Sam was also
was it literally like that? Sort of deadpan, what do you think you're doing?
if you know Z, he could be a little bit, what's going on here? Sam was also there. He's like, hoo-yah, Marines, get those Gene Stealers.
Now that makes more sense.
It was any game that can elicit that kind of emotional, visceral reaction, because we were losing, and then he just like came up with a bunch of awesome die rolls and just like and crazy. Love this game. I can't recommend it enough. It is out of print right now, so you're going to have a hard time getting it. Hopefully you can get it in the secondary market at some point. The expansions, however, those are really hard to get. Print those out. Like, find it some way. I'm sure the files are around somewhere. Not that suggest piracy or anything like that, but like, you'll
Yeah.
be able to get like research the actual cards and print out little cards if you really want to play the expansions. The base game is enough to satisfy me, so I'm really happy with Space Hulk, Death Angel, the card game. So this next game is another one of those games that you either know it or you don't. This was a very rare one, so this is my number. What number is that? 65.
We
And this is
definitely gave you
really super
possession of
high.
this list. So-
Number 23 on my personal list. So you know it's a really high one. And this is the last one for a while that one of us has played and the other one hasn't. We're going to get into some common games in a second. But let me talk to you about the Ravens of Thri Sahasri. So have you played this game?
Nope.
Have you heard of this game? No.
I heard of it, but I thought it was a bigger box. I was expecting you to bring out some big, grandiose box or something. So this isn't quite what I expected.
Ha-ha! Not Kickstarter, not a big old grandiose box. I let you talk your crap because I knew I had space Ravens of Thri Sahasri in the back pocket over there. This is a weird game. So it's a two-player cooperative game. One player is playing a character who has lost her memory. So like this over here, I think she's called Ren. She's lost her memory, and the other character, the theft character, is trying to recreate those memories. So it's a puzzle game. So the cards represent puzzles, and you're trying to put together the puzzle in such a way where you reveal the character's quote-unquote memory. There's no talking in this game. So in order to put the puzzle together in the right way, the Ren character has to communicate, has to like, okay, so you put the puzzle together out of a bunch of cards, and then the Ren character takes one away and puts it into her quote-unquote heart. The theft player is supposed to read whatever that is, and okay, this is what you have in your personal tableau. So like I have a secret tableau if I'm the Ren character. So it's a guessing game, and it's a deduction game, and it's a silent communication game, and it's weird, and people don't like it, but I do.
People don't like it. I mean, this kind of is giving me a kind of a Hanabi vibe.
It is. It definitely like if someone gives you a clue in Hanabi, you can't just like go off the regular clue. You have to like read the context of it.
Yeah.
This is definitely like, okay, especially if you're the Ren player. The Ren player is you're taking the card and you're hoping to communicate something with having taken that card out of the puzzle of it. And the theft player is going, why did they take that card? Did you take that card because it's part of your heart, or did you take that card because you're affecting the puzzle so that it makes it easier to solve it? It's one of those games that rewards constant playing. So like a lot of these games, you can play them a couple times and, whatever, you're done. This game, the more you play it with the same partner, the more you'll kind of be in sync with this stuff. So I guess Hanabi in that way, where it's like it rewards people who play over and over and over again together. I love this game. I've played this a number of times with a number of different partners. They all drop off. I am looking for a constant partner for this game. This is the Ravens of Thri Sahasri. This is actually the reprint from Osprey Games. This is an older Japanese game. Okay, so now we are a little bit early, but we are entering the territory where we've all both played the games, we both like them, and we could both speak to them. All right, so this next game both of us have played. It is, I'll look up the numbers right here. It is 88 on Luke's list, number 45 on my list. So I like it a little bit better than Luke. We both kind of have a special place for this. This is Fuse by Kane Klenko from Renegade Games. I've talked enough. Go ahead. You tell me a little bit about this game.
You can carry on. It's more your favourite than mine.
That's true.
Besides,
that's true.
looking at the next three, I think I'll be taking over in a minute. So you can do this.
That is okay. There we go. Here, this will be the last one for me for my description in this part of the thing. Okay, so Fuse is a cooperative dice rolling game. So it is timed 10 minutes. So you see it right here on the box. This game will self-destruct in 10 minutes. I don't know if I got it in the camera, but whatever. So it is a game where you're diffusing bombs, quote unquote. And the bombs are represented by these cards, and you're rolling colored dice, just regular D6, and like every single turn you're going to roll dice, and whoever's at the table is going to kind of grab a die and put it on their card. So you have to grab certain dice to match the patterns that are on the card. So the bomb diffusion. So like basically you're matching patterns, and you're doing it fast. So I really like this game because the cooperation is really key. So like if you think of this game, you're like, oh, I need this, I need that, and blah blah blah. But if you're really in tune, which is where cooperative games really shine, you could be like, okay, high priority this one, low priority that one. You know, I need this, you need that. Oh, you look over there, you need this. So you roll your 5 dice. It's like, okay, you need that 6, you need that black one, you need that this one, and blah 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 blah, boom 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 boom, done done. And you can really like fly through the game. A lot of cooperation, a lot of tension. I demoed this for Renegade at PAX, the recent PAX that happened, PAX Unplugged. Every single time, like you can tell I'm a little bit of an expressive guy. So when I'm like rolling dice, I'm like, oh my God, it's a crisis. We're not going to get through this. And people, I would like get people all riled up and everything. Any game where I can get people like emotionally invested is a good game. That is Fuse. So it is on your list. It's not like it's off or anything like that.
Nah, this is a solid game. Like I said, you just happen to like it more than I do, but nah, this is a good solid. I mean, you say it's tension, everyone gets into it, and everyone goes nuts over it, but it's 10 minutes. So if you don't like stressful games, it's done and dusted in 10 minutes, and if you enjoy it enough, you'll just play it again.
So are you just not a timed game person like that?
It depends on the games. I mean, I think time games are good if they're short. I mean, I recently, in fact, I wonder, is it coming up on the? I don't know. If
The next section, Kitchen Rush.
Yeah, I probably don't want to. No, I wasn't thinking of that one. There's another one coming up later. I'm not going to spoil, but it was one that I played recently, and that's a similar deal where it's one of those timed co-ops where it's fast and frantic, done and dusted within 15 minutes, and those ones work. The timed aspect must be short. And there's even a game even further up the list where you got pockets of the timed actions and that. I suppose it depends what you're doing. I mean, timed in co-op works a lot better than timed in other games as well. Because what's one that I didn't like? That was like Galaxy Trucker. I'm not a massive fan of that. I'm not a fan of that game. Yeah, but that one has the timed aspect and it's competitive, and for some reason it just doesn't gel with me in that one. But here, when it's short and sweet time phases, love it. It's fine. And to be fair, you're defusing a bomb. It's kind of part and partial to the theme.
And it actually has another game in this line called Flatline. Did not appear on either of our lists. Did you not like it?
Just haven't played that one.
You haven't played it? I wasn't that impressed. It was like, kind of that you're saving patients at an emergency room. So it's like, oh, I got to get them in and got to save them, everything. It's kind of like reminding me how, so if you like King of Tokyo and, okay, play the more complicated version, King of New York. Don't play the more complicated version. The simpler one is just fine. I think more complex sometimes means a little bit more overwrought. And I found Flatline a little bit of more of an overwrought version of Fuse. Fuse is simple. I can take it anywhere. It's so I just put it in my pack and go. You're good with Fuse. So that is Fuse. That is our number 64. Cool. So now we get into a couple of games that Luke has rated a little bit higher than me, although I do like, on some level, all of these games. Number 63 is a surprise. I was shocked to see this as high on the list as you have it there. It is Carnival Zombie. Your number 36, my number 97.
Carnival Zombie. I mean, zombie games for me are a hit and miss affair. Like, I mean, zombies are everywhere. So we got zombies this and zombies that. So it's like, can we try something new? With a lot of the zombie games, though, it's more like, here's the horde of zombies, you're in a shelter, or you have a knife. Here you go. Prod them a little bit, and there you go. Carnival Zombie, as well as being very gritty in its visual appeal, like the artwork's really good, it's gross, and the settings, I mean, I love the cover of the box with that sort of...
It's not cartoony at all, yeah.
No, it is not cartoony. I like this one being a bit more gritty. But it's like the tower defense thing as well, which is another thing I do like. That is a good style of co-op I like. You're here, they're all coming in, survive. That I do get a kick out of with most co-ops, and that's the same with this one, because you have your guys in the sort of center ring, you've got the different areas, you can put little blockades up, but essentially you've all got cool special abilities, you've got some awesome weaponry to start the game with. It's not like, oh, I have a tiny little knife and I might just get a pistol. No, this is like, alright, I start the game and I have 2 scimitars, I have an assault rifle, you've got all this cool stuff, but then you've got all the zombies coming to counteract this, so they're all coming in waves, you've got the bigger versions, the bosses are 900, and I think it's just, like I say, it is the tower defense style that I do enjoy, and this is a zombie game I can get into the theme with, because it just feels like you want this, this is like, I think all the bad zombie movies that involve just people shooting tons. I mean, think like the Resident Evil movies and stuff like that, where it's just mindless action, just a ton of zombies and a bunch of guys with lots of guns. The movies may be rubbish, but it's fun to play it as a game. And and on top of that, the amount of laughs we get with, I'll admit, this bit is pointless. I don't know why they put it in, but what do they call it again? The grave of zombies or something? The little dexterity element.
Oh yeah.
Zombie
Okay.
cubes. Yeah, where the zombies die, you have to put them on this tiny little tile, and if they fall off, more zombies come back. I mean, it's a completely pointless addition or a dexterity mechanism, but it doesn't get a lot of laughs from people. It's just sort of going, there you go, we're okay. And then someone spills them over, and everyone shouts at them for bringing the zombie hordes back. But it looks the business and does great for a tower defense zombie game, which is why I tend to rate this higher than most other zombie games.
You have to play this with 6, right?
I don't think you.
Not with 6 players, but it's 6 characters.
Yeah, I
With
think you
people playing
can. I
multiple
think you
characters,
can
yeah.
control multiple characters, but I mean, like I say, I control 2. Fine, no big deal.
It's not that big a deal, but it's something to kind of look out for. That will come up with a game that we're talking about in a couple of minutes right there.
Yeah.
That sense of like you have to play multiple characters. So I find this game kind of old tech. Like this is an old game. Like if you're just gonna rush out and be like, oh wow, I love Luke's description of Carnival Zombie. Let me go buy it right now. Good luck with that.
It's not easy to get hold of. I mean, it didn't have a big release anyway, but it wasn't that old. I mean, 2013, I think, is when it came out.
That's ancient. Are you serious?
Cult of the New.
Cult of the New. I mean, well, in terms of print runs, like, I mean, if it was still in print, then whatever it is, but like, there's a, and I find like it just kind of, I think co-ops have kind of developed a little bit since then. So this is a little bit simplistic in its mechanisms. So, but yeah, I dig the theme. I also dig tower defense. So it did make my list. And I would like a couple more cracks at it. Maybe some of the silliness of it will kind of get into me and I'll get into a little bit more. So that is Carnival Zombie. The next game. So I do not own Carnival Zombie, but I definitely own this next game. As a dad, you need to own this next game right over here. Hold on a sec. What is that? It is Mice and Mystics. This is our number 62. 39 on Luke's list, and then way down at 94. And I'll talk about why it's that far down the list in a second. But Luke, go ahead and tell me why Mice and Mystics is that high on your list.
It's not me that actually has owned it. It's usually other people I know that have owned it, because you said it is the one to get with your dads want it, because it's great with their kids. And I've got a group of friends who, they're getting their kids in there, and they said like, I need something like story or fantasy-esque or something. Is there anything I can do that my kid will enjoy? And it's like, here you go.
There you go.
Like,
bam.
Mice and Biscuits, but they obviously needed more players, so it's like, fine, I'll join in. But it's kind of like most of the dungeon crawls these days are just getting far too complex, or you buy a million expansion packs. There's rules for everything, and it just gets a little bit too convoluted. Mice and Mystics just seems to be that nice streamlined level of, I just want a simple sort of dungeon crawl with a cool fantasy setting. I mean, it's always Star Wars or fantasy, go kill the dragon and that. In this case, it's more like the little anthropomorphic rats, and it's not, here's this grandiose, castle with, a kingdom that's under siege or something. No, it's like you're going through the floorboards, and you've got to escape like little spiders and like little enemies, other rat clans, and then suddenly the big boss is just the cat. It's just such a good little addition. But I think besides it working well as a game, it's a great little story. The families can get into it, so I suppose a lot of that comes through nicely from the co-op nature, and it not being too complex. Another thing is that it does give me a little bit of a nostalgic feel for a lot of those old animated films that I've watched, particularly what's his name? The animator, the really famous one. God, he did Secret of Nim, Fievel Goes West, and all that lot. I'm trying to remember his name.
No idea.
Don Bluth. Yes, Don Bluth.
There you go. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but he did those films like Secret of Nim, and a lot of those had like the little anthropomorphic, rats or mice and typical fantasy settings. It just gave me a little bit of a throwback to those. It's almost like this. I almost think that you could take Mice and Mystics and make it a Don Bluth film. It feels that close to the others. So yeah, I've had some good times with it, and I've never had to actually own the game. It's just like, I recommended it to a family. Oh, you need another player? Sweet.
There you go. Two things. One, I think it's been replaced by another release from the same company, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And number two, I think you mentioned that it has dice. I think it goes a bridge too far with the dice. You roll dice for everything. You can't even scratch your rear end without rolling dice in this game. You roll dice to move. You roll dice to search. You roll dice to attack, and you roll dice to block, and you roll dice to even progress the story. It's like, can I do something without rolling dice? I don't want to have to. I don't want the third failure to happen every single time.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it with young ones though. So I mean, this is definitely not one for the ones who don't like the luck aspect. I think it's more like the simplicity of it. Just like, let's just get into a little fantasy adventure. It's cute, and you look at the kid enjoying it, and he's having a blast.
I mean, I'm fine with dice. There's plenty of dice games in my stuff, but it's too much. Like, you don't need dice for everything. Plus, like, you roll the dice to attack and block. So there's a lot of times you'll go like hit block, hit block, hit block. Okay, cockroaches. The cockroaches that block. I just want to squish these things.
Yeah, but you're only as big as them. And to be fair, if I'm coming up against spiders, I mean, I hate spiders, so I'm sort of like, get off me! Save me! Whiskers, save me!
And I cannot deny the appeal of the game. I still have it. I'm going to play it. I mean, house rule it. I will house rule stuff, and I'll be able to get through a scenario in 45 minutes. Very whimsical, very fun, misomistic. Definitely, I can see why people have it really, really high on their list. So this last one, also higher on Luke's list. This is number 55 on his list. 76 on mine, so I'm not as big a fan of it. So that averaged out to 61 overall. The last game we're going to talk about today, it is Zombiecide, Black Plague version of Zombiecide.
Yes, and if this was the normal Zombiecide, I don't think it would even make the list.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Way down.
Yeah, the original Zombiecide, it's like, oh god, another Zombiecide expansion. The original thing of modern day zombie, I don't know, it's not the best theme that I go for. And even then, it had the weird line of sight rules and stuff about like attacking your own people. And there was a lot of problems I had. Not to mention the game took forever. You know, people would set the game up, it would take ages, and then like 2 hours later, or even longer, they're still playing it. And it's like, you don't like the dice chucking thing. That's what the original Zombiecide is. It's basically a dice chucker, a zombie attack game. It does not need to be that long. Black Plague came by and solved a lot of those problems. I mean, firstly, the length. I'm not saying it's the shortest game ever, but it certainly is a massive reduction on what the original Zombiecide was. Setting it in medieval times was better, because modern day, don't care. But being back then, you can sort of go, right, I've got the axe, I've got the sword, I've got spells. It just, the theme takes on better. They fixed like the line of sight things for shooting at your own people. You do have to control 6 characters. I don't mind controlling multiple characters, but I'm fine with that. I mean, you got 6 people playing. I got to control 2 guys. Cool. I'll have one magic dude. I'll have one melee dude. At least I can have both bases, and the game should still go pretty fast. But no, I mean it's an enjoyable one just for like I just need hack and slash zombies, and you get a lot of them on the board. The scenarios are fairly different. I like the necromancer sort of sub-rule where rather than just, you're in the middle of the modern day and there just happens to be zombies. No, it's like, here's this physical necromancer person, they're summoning them, go kill him. And he's making life worse. Although I've not played it with the I'm not sure if it's even released yet, the Eric Summoner.
Eric Summoner. It was like a promo, wasn't it? That's not like an official expansion. I don't know.
No, it's a promo. It's a promo that they did, like, because all the Dice Tower lot have got their own figure in a game, and that's his, and it's perfectly suited. But no, I enjoy it, and I wouldn't mind checking out the Orc one, the Green Horde, if I ever get a chance.
I like it fine. I think there's, like I've mentioned, a bunch of games that I like better, Gloomkill Forth, and I get these big fantasy games all the time, so there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's fine. Controlling the 6 characters, I do not like. I don't necessarily hate controlling multiple characters, but there's a threshold of complication so that I don't like. So like if it's simple, like if it's just 2 people, like I find the Space Hulk Death Angel, you have to control multiple characters. I find that pretty simple. Carnival Zombie is like nothing, It's like you're just there. But in Zombiecide, you have to gear up both characters. So like, okay, this person gets this thing, this person gets that thing, and you have to kind of manage 2 things. And if you're playing 2-player, you're managing 3 things. If you're playing solo, you're managing 6. No, I'm not sure why the game design demanded that. I know there's like either custom scenarios or maybe like some variants out there that you can reduce the number of players, but at that point you're doing homework. on a game. Just give me the real thing on site. And
They,
you like I said, I mean, it's just it's a popcorn game. Like I'm just going to throw it down. You're going to kill a bunch of zombies, and that's it. I guess I like a little bit more meat on the bone because I play a ton of these, like a ton. Like I just showed you like 3 or 4 in just section of the list alone. Does this game do enough to kind of separate themselves in the pack? I could see where the role is, but I just have a lot of these games, and with more to come. Like there are definitely more dungeon crawlers in this list. What did you think of Massive Darkness?
to be honest, I tried it the ones, but I wasn't that blown away by it. I mean, it's decent enough. It's another hack and slash dungeon crawl, and I think
Yeah,
it's just
with
one of
this system, like it's like very very similar.
yeah, they play very similar. They operate similar. It's just a different theme, different setting than that. But I mean, yeah, it looks great. But I'm starting to get to that point with a lot of these dungeon crawls where it's another dungeon crawl. And don't worry, we'll get back to this later on in the list with some of these. But it's just like every time I see one on Kickstarter, I am practically rolling my eyes over it because it's like, oh look, more fantasy miniatures, more dungeon crawl, more going into a dungeon and stealing from JR Token again. It's
Yep.
just it's starting to get old. So I mean, I played it and I thought it was fine, but I couldn't really sort of get into it. And I hear from I wonder if it's the same game. There's a friend of mine who's been doing like a campaign with it, and I hear it's got a bit of a problem with its difficulty curve
Hmm.
as the
Yep.
game goes on. Like you start off being sort of on equal par with the enemy, maybe even they're a bit stronger. But by the time you get sort of halfway through the campaign as you go along, you are so powerful
Yep.
that you can take Superman on if he showed up, and it means that you basically steamroll the game. I think it's the same game
Yep.
because I've
That's how Massive Darkness is.
yeah,
Yep.
I think it's the same one that they've been playing at my local club, and they've been describing like, oh, this is what the guy can do now, and it's just like, I'm pretty certain that's not even physically possible for a person to do, and yet their character can do it, and suddenly they're just hack and slashing everything left, right, and center, and it's like, well, if it gets too easy, if it can't scale the difficulty enough to match you, that's fail. It doesn't work that way. With
Yep.
Zombicide, you at least do get that aspect of, yes, I have geared up, but there's still a lot of zombies on the table.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a solid game. I'm not gonna. It's on my list, so I'm happy to play it when it
Yeah,
comes down.
you were mid
Just
70s, so
there's a lot more in the genre, and there's a lot more that are higher than that. And I don't like controlling multiple characters, but if you like the sound of that, if you like just mowing down a bunch of stuff, there you go.
it
So
does.
that is,
Yeah, it does
I get
need smaller scenarios, definitely.
yes. That is our 61 through 80 of the list. We are done with 2/5 of the list. I can do math. Uh, so for the top 60, for the vast majority of them, we have played both of them, so we both will be able to kind of go back and forth. And this next particular chunk of the list is going to be really interesting because a lot of the games, one of us has rated very highly and one of us has rated not so highly. So we'll be able to kind of go back and forth on
Yeah,
that.
there's
So we're
some
looking
good
forward
stuff
to it.
coming up in the next list, actually, and it's good to see that. I mean, all of these have been played to an extent, so yeah, so there'll be good stuff to talk about on there, and some higher than others, depending on what we like. One or two, I think, might be not on the other person's list, maybe because you might have thought it was not co-op, in a sense. Like, there's one that I'm certainly interested to hear when we get to that point.
Yep.
And then there's obviously the ones where we've kind of stretched the definition a bit, which is possibly why it's not on the other person's list. So, yeah, it's going to vary. But now we're actually getting into the ones where it's not just simply, oh, I've played this, I've never heard of it. And and then certainly on the next list, I don't own a ton of them. I do own that. So I might. Okay, so maybe I can only show and tell a few of them, but there'll certainly be more to show and tell as time goes on.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Every Night is Game Night After Hours. This has been Top 100 Cooperative Games with the Broken Meeple. You can find the video version of all of these podcasts on Luke's channel, which is The Broken Meeple over on YouTube. If you wanted to pursue that more, we are going to continue counting down until Friday. That is when we are going to present our top 10 cooperative games, and Anthony will be back. We'll make that into a regular episode, and he'll have a top 10 list of his own. Hopefully, we'll see you there. Until then, this is Jason signing off. Later, everybody.